George Washington, the making of America's first president. George Washington was born on February 22, 1732, in Westmoreland County, Virginia, into a world that was still very much part of the British Empire. His father, Augustine Washington, was a planter and a prominent figure in the community, while his mother, Mary Ball Washington, was known for her strong will and piety. The Washington family was relatively well off, owning several plantations and a number of enslaved people, which was typical of the Virginia gentry at the time. The young George spent his early years at Ferry Farm, a plantation near Fredericksburg, where he learned the basics of plantation management and agriculture. His childhood was not without its challenges. His father's death in 1743, the family in a precarious financial situation. Augustine's death meant that George, at the age of 11, had to shoulder greater responsibilities. He became more involved in the day-to-day operations of the family estate, developing a work ethic and sense of duty that would define his later life. Education for Washington was sporadic and largely informal. He received some schooling from local tutors and attended the nearby Lower Church of Washington Parish, where he studied subjects such as mathematics, geography, Latin, and the rudiments of classical education. Despite the lack of formal schooling, Washington was an avid learner. He developed a love for reading and a curiosity about the world, traits that would serve him well in his future endeavors. One of the most significant influences on young Washington was his elder half-brother, Lawrence Washington. Lawrence, who had served in the British Navy, provided a model of military service and gentlemanly conduct that George admired. After Lawrence married Anne Fairfax, the daughter of a wealthy and influential Virginia family, George was introduced to the Fairfax clan, who would play a crucial role in his early career. The Fairfax family, particularly Lord Fairfax, recognized Washington's potential and provided him with opportunities that would shape his future. At the age of 16, Washington was appointed as a surveyor for Culpeper County, a position that took him into the rugged and uncharted territories of the Virginia frontier. This work not only gave him practical experience in land management and surveying, but also instilled in him a deep appreciation for the American wilderness. Surveying was a physically demanding and often dangerous job. Washington traversed the untamed landscapes, dealing with harsh weather, difficult terrain, and the ever-present threat of conflicts with Native American tribes. These experiences helped to build his resilience and self-reliance. They also provided him with a thorough understanding of the land, which would later prove invaluable in his military career. Washington's work as a surveyor brought him into contact with various influential figures in Virginia society, helping him to build a network of connections that would be crucial in his later life. His growing reputation for honesty, diligence, and competence earned him the respect of his peers and the trust of important patrons like Lord Fairfax. In 1749, at the age of 17, Washington received his first significant public appointment as the official surveyor of Culpeper County. This position not only provided him with a steady income, but also cemented his status as a respected member of the community. His surveying work laid the foundation for his future endeavors, teaching him valuable lessons in leadership, negotiation, and perseverance. As Washington entered adulthood, he began to take on more significant roles in the management of the family estate and in the local militia. His early experiences in these areas would prove to be the building blocks of his later military and political career. The skills he honed as a surveyor, precision, patience, and an eye for detail would serve him well in the complex and often tumultuous world of 18th century America. Washington's early years were marked by a combination of privilege and hardship, opportunity and challenge. The lessons he learned during this formative period about leadership, responsibility, and resilience shaped the man who would one day lead a revolution and help found a new nation. His humble beginnings, far from limiting his potential, provided the foundation upon which he built a legacy that continues to inspire and guide America to this day. The young surveyor. George Washington's career as a surveyor began when he was just 16 years old. It was a profession that not only suited his meticulous nature, but also provided him with a unique perspective on the vast and largely unexplored American frontier. In 1748, Washington was invited to join a surveying expedition organized by Lord Fairfax, a significant landowner in the Virginia colony. Fairfax owned over 5 million acres of land in the northern neck of Virginia, an area that extended from the Potomac River to the Rappahannock River. This vast territory required extensive surveying to establish property boundaries and to assess its potential for development. The young Washington eagerly accepted the invitation, seeing it as an opportunity to prove himself and to gain valuable experience. The expedition took him into the rugged and uncharted wilderness of the Shenandoah Valley, a region known for its natural beauty, but also its difficulties. The journey was arduous, with the surveying party encountering rough terrain, inclement weather, and the constant threat of encounters with Native American tribes. Despite these challenges, Washington thrived. He demonstrated a keen eye for detail and an impressive ability to navigate and map the landscape. His work impressed Lord Fairfax, who recognized Washington's potential and provided him with further opportunities. This initial foray into surveying was just the beginning of a career that would see Washington travel across much of the colony, mapping out lands that would later become pivotal in the expansion of the United States. In 1749, Washington was officially appointed as the surveyor of Culpeper County. This was a prestigious position for someone so young, and it provided him with a steady income and a measure of social standing. As the county surveyor, Washington was responsible for measuring and mapping land, resolving disputes over property boundaries, and ensuring that land grants were accurately recorded. This work required not only technical skill, but also a strong sense of fairness and integrity, qualities that Washington possessed in abundance. Washington's surveys were noted for their accuracy and precision, qualities that earned him the respect and trust of the local landowners. His reputation as a reliable and competent surveyor spread, leading to further commissions and increased responsibilities. Over the next few years, he surveyed thousands of acres of land, often working in remote and challenging environments. His work took him to the far reaches of the Virginia frontier, where he gained first-hand experience of the diverse landscapes and peoples that made up the colony. The physical demands of surveying were significant. Washington often spent weeks at a time in the wilderness, living off the land and enduring the harsh conditions. He developed a robust constitution and a keen survival instinct, traits that would serve him well in his future military career. The isolation of the frontier also gave him ample time for reflection, allowing him to contemplate his ambitions and the broader issues facing the colonies. Surveying also brought Washington into contact with a wide range of people, from wealthy landowners to humble settlers. He developed strong interpersonal skills and a talent for negotiation, learning how to navigate the complex social hierarchies of colonial Virginia. These interactions helped to broaden his horizons and to develop a more nuanced understanding of the society in which he lived. In addition to his surveying work, Washington began to take on more responsibilities at Mount Vernon, the family estate. After his half-brother Lawrence's death in 1752, George leased Mount Vernon from Lawrence's widow and began to manage the plantation's operations. This role required him to oversee the planting and harvesting of crops, manage the labor force, and handle the estate's finances. It was a demanding job, but one that Washington approached with characteristic diligence and attention to detail. Washington's experiences as a surveyor and plantation manager were crucial in shaping his character and his future. The skills he developed, leadership, negotiation, strategic thinking, would prove invaluable in his later military and political career. His time in the wilderness gave him a deep appreciation for the land and its potential, while his interactions with the diverse inhabitants of the colony broadened his understanding of the social and political dynamics at play. These early years were marked by hard work and perseverance, qualities that would define Washington throughout his life. His ability to overcome challenges and to seize opportunities set him on a path toward greatness, laying the groundwork for his future role as a leader of the American Revolution and the first President of the United States. The young surveyor, with his keen eye and steadfast determination, was already beginning to map out not just the land, but his own remarkable destiny. The French and Indian War. The French and Indian War, which lasted from 1754 to 1763, was a pivotal conflict in North American history. For George Washington, it was a formative experience that would shape his military career and his understanding of colonial politics. The war began as a struggle between the British and French empires for control of North America. The Ohio Valley, a region rich in resources and strategic significance, became a major flashpoint. Both the British and the French sought to expand their influence in this area, leading to a series of skirmishes and escalating tensions. The Native American tribes, caught between these two colonial powers, played a crucial role in the conflict, often allying with one side or the other based on their own interests. In 1753, Washington, then a young officer in the Virginia militia, was selected by Governor Robert Dinwiddie to carry a message to the French forces in the Ohio Valley, demanding that they vacate the territory. Washington's journey into the wilderness was fraught with danger, but he successfully delivered the message to the French commander at Fort Leboeuf, who politely refused to comply. This mission, though ultimately unsuccessful, demonstrated Washington's courage and determination. The following year, Washington was dispatched once again, this time leading a small force to build a fort at the confluence of the Allegheny and Monongahela rivers, a strategic location in the Ohio Valley. Before they could complete their fort, however, the French forces arrived and drove them off, establishing Fort Duquesne in its place. Washington retreated and hastily constructed a makeshift fortification known as Fort Necessity. The Battle of Fort Necessity, which took place on July 3, 1754, was Washington's first major military engagement. The French and their Native American allies attacked the fort, and after a day of intense fighting, Washington was forced to surrender. The terms of the surrender allowed Washington and his men to return to Virginia, but the defeat was a humbling experience. It taught Washington valuable lessons about the realities of warfare, the importance of fortifications, and the complexities of colonial alliances. Despite this setback, Washington's bravery and leadership were recognized, and he was appointed as a lieutenant colonel in the Virginia Regiment. Over the next few years, he participated in several key battles and expeditions, gaining experience and honing his military skills. One of the most significant of these engagements was the Braddock Expedition of 1755. General Edward Braddock, a British officer, was sent to North America to lead a campaign against the French. Washington joined Braddock's expedition as a volunteer aide-de-camp, eager to learn from the experienced British officers. The campaign aimed to capture Fort Duquesne, but it ended in disaster. On July 9, 1755, Braddock's forces were ambushed by French and Native American troops near the Monongahela River. The British soldiers, unaccustomed to frontier warfare, were overwhelmed. During the chaotic retreat, Washington distinguished himself by rallying the survivors and organizing an orderly withdrawal. He had two horses shot out from under him and 4 bullet holes through his coat, but he emerged unscathed. Washington's conduct during the battle earned him widespread admiration and solidified his reputation as a capable and courageous leader. In the aftermath of Braddock's defeat, Washington took command of the Virginia Regiment and was tasked with defending the colony's frontier. This period was marked by constant skirmishes with French forces and their Native American allies. Washington faced numerous challenges, including shortages of supplies, difficulties in maintaining discipline among his men, and the political complexities of coordinating with British regulars and colonial officials. Despite these obstacles, Washington managed to hold the line and protect the frontier settlements. His experiences during this period deepened his understanding of military strategy, logistics, and leadership. He also developed a keen awareness of the limitations and frustrations of colonial military service, which would later influence his views during the American Revolution. The French and Indian War came to an end in 1763 with the signing of the Treaty of Paris. The British emerged victorious, gaining control of vast territories in North America. For Washington, the war was a turning point. It had transformed him from a novice officer into a seasoned military leader. It had also exposed him to the broader geopolitical struggles of the time and the complexities of colonial governance. The war's aftermath saw Washington returning to civilian life at Mount Vernon, where he focused on managing his estate and building his social and political connections. However, the experiences and lessons he had gained during the conflict stayed with him. They shaped his leadership style, his strategic thinking, and his commitment to the American cause. The French and Indian War was more than just a military conflict. It was a crucible in which Washington's character and abilities were forged. It prepared him for the greater challenges that lay ahead and set the stage for his emergence as a central figure in the struggle for American independence. Through the trials and tribulations of this war, George Washington developed the skills and resilience that would one day make him a legendary leader and the first president of the United States. The farmer and the general. After the conclusion of the French and Indian War, George Washington returned to Mount Vernon, where he sought to rebuild his life as a farmer and landowner. This chapter explores Washington's transition from military service to civilian life, his efforts to improve his estate, and the growing political tensions that would soon draw him back into the public sphere. Mount Vernon, located along the Potomac River, was a sprawling estate that had been in the Washington family since the 1670s. When George inherited the property following the deaths of his half-brother Lawrence and Lawrence's widow, he set about transforming it into a prosperous and self-sustaining plantation. This was no small task. The estate required constant attention and innovation to thrive. Washington was a hands-on manager, deeply involved in every aspect of Mount Vernon's operations. He experimented with various crops, including tobacco, wheat, and corn, seeking to diversify the plantation's production and reduce its dependence on a single cash crop. He also implemented advanced agricultural techniques, such as crop rotation and the use of fertilizers, to improve soil fertility and increase yields. In addition to farming, Washington expanded Mount Vernon's infrastructure. He built mills, workshops, and a distillery, turning the estate into a bustling center of production. He also invested in the latest farming equipment and maintained detailed records of his agricultural experiments and results. Washington's dedication to improving Mount Vernon reflected his broader vision of self-sufficiency and economic independence, ideals that would later resonate in his political philosophy. Washington's role as a planter also involved managing a large labor force, which included both hired workers and enslaved people. The reliance on slave labor was a grim reality of plantation life in colonial Virginia, and Washington, like many of his contemporaries, grappled with the moral and practical implications of slavery. He treated his enslaved workers with a degree of paternalism, providing for their basic needs, but the harsh realities of their bondage and the contradictions it posed to his ideals of liberty and justice were issues that Washington would wrestle with for the rest of his life. Despite the demands of managing Mount Vernon, Washington remained active in Virginia's social and political circles. He served in the Virginia House of Burgesses, where he became known for his advocacy of colonial rights and opposition to British policies that he viewed as unjust. His experiences in the House of Burgesses deepened his understanding of colonial governance and sharpened his political acumen. The years following the French and Indian War were a period of relative peace and prosperity for Washington, but they were also marked by increasing tensions between the American colonies and Great Britain. The British government, seeking to recoup the costs of the war, imposed a series of taxes and regulations on the colonies, including the Stamp Act of 1765 and the Townshend Acts of 1767. These measures were deeply unpopular and sparked widespread protest and resistance. Washington, like many of his fellow colonists, viewed these actions as violations of their rights as Englishmen. He began to articulate a vision of American liberty that emphasized self-governance and resistance to tyranny. His writings and speeches from this period reflect a growing sense of American identity and a commitment to defending colonial freedoms. As the political situation deteriorated, Washington found himself increasingly drawn into the struggle for independence. He joined the First Continental Congress in 1774, where he became a leading advocate for colonial unity and preparedness. When the Second Continental Congress convened in 1775, the outbreak of hostilities at Lexington and Concord made it clear that armed conflict was inevitable. On June 15, 1775, Washington was appointed Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army. His selection was a testament to his military experience, leadership qualities, and the respect he commanded among his peers. Washington accepted the commission with a sense of duty and resolve, fully aware of the challenges that lay ahead. Washington's return to military service marked a new chapter in his life. He left Mount Vernon, entrusting the management of the estate to his family and overseers, and took command of the Continental Army. The task before him was daunting. He faced an experienced and well-equipped British army, logistical difficulties, and the need to unify and motivate a diverse and often undisciplined group of soldiers. Despite these challenges, Washington approached his new role with determination and strategic insight. He understood that the key to success lay not in winning every battle, but in sustaining the revolutionary cause and outlasting the British. His leadership during the early years of the war, including the siege of Boston and the daring crossing of the Delaware River, demonstrated his ability to inspire and lead under the most difficult circumstances. Washington's experiences as a farmer and landowner at Mount Vernon had prepared him well for the challenges of leading the Continental Army. His understanding of logistics, resource management, and the importance of resilience and adaptability were crucial in sustaining the revolutionary effort. His ability to connect with soldiers and civilians alike, and to articulate a vision of American liberty, helped to galvanize support for the cause. As the war progressed, Washington faced numerous trials and setbacks, but his unwavering commitment to the ideals of independence and self-governance never wavered. The lessons he had learned at Mount Vernon, the importance of perseverance, innovation, and leadership proved invaluable in his quest to secure American independence. Washington's transition from farmer to general was not just a change in occupation, but a profound evolution in his sense of duty and identity. It marked the beginning of his transformation into a national leader, a role that would culminate in his election as the first president of the United States. The farmer and the general, bound by a common vision of liberty and justice, would become inseparable parts of Washington's enduring legacy. The road to revolution. The period leading up to the American Revolution was marked by escalating tensions and growing discontent among the American colonies. For George Washington, this was a time of increasing political involvement and a deepening commitment to the cause of American independence. This chapter explores the events and influences that propelled Washington from a colonial landowner to a revolutionary leader, highlighting his role in the early stages of the struggle for independence. The seeds of revolution were sown in the aftermath of the French and Indian War. The British government, burdened by debt from the conflict, sought to raise revenue through a series of taxes and regulations imposed on the American colonies. The Stamp Act of 1765, which required colonists to purchase stamped paper for legal documents and other printed materials was particularly inflammatory. Colonists viewed it as an unconstitutional violation of their rights, as they had no representation in the British Parliament. Washington, like many of his contemporaries, was outraged by the Stamp Act. He believed that it threatened the fundamental liberties of the colonists and set a dangerous precedent for further encroachments on their rights. He joined the chorus of voices calling for its repeal and began to articulate a vision of American liberty grounded in self-governance and resistance to tyranny. The repeal of the Stamp Act in 1766 did little to quell colonial unrest, as the British government continued to impose new taxes and regulations. The Townshend Acts of 1767, which placed duties on imported goods, further inflamed tensions. Washington, who had previously expressed loyalty to the British Crown, began to adopt a more radical stance. He supported non-importation agreements, which aimed to pressure Britain by boycotting British goods, and became increasingly vocal in his opposition to British policies. In 1770, the Boston Massacre, in which British soldiers killed 5 colonists during a confrontation, shocked the colonies and galvanized anti-British sentiment. Washington viewed the incident as a stark illustration of the dangers posed by British military presence in the colonies. His resolve to resist British oppression was further strengthened by the passage of the Coercive Acts in 1774, which were intended to punish Massachusetts for the Boston Tea Party, but were seen by many as an assault on colonial liberties. As tensions mounted, Washington took on a more active role in organizing resistance. He was elected as a delegate to the First Continental Congress, which convened in Philadelphia in September 1774. The Congress brought together representatives from 12 of the 13 colonies to coordinate their response to British actions. Washington's presence at the Congress underscored his growing prominence as a leader and his commitment to the colonial cause. At the First Continental Congress, Washington supported the adoption of the Continental Association, which called for a boycott of British goods and the establishment of local committees to enforce it. He also endorsed the drafting of a petition to King George III, expressing the colony's grievances and seeking redress. While the petition reflected a desire for reconciliation, it was clear that the colonies were prepared to take more drastic measures if their demands were not met. The situation reached a boiling point in April 1775, when British troops clashed with colonial militia at Lexington and Concord. The outbreak of armed conflict marked the beginning of the American Revolutionary War. In response, the Second Continental Congress convened in May 1775, with Washington again serving as a delegate. The Congress faced the urgent task of organizing a military response and appointed Washington as Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army. Washington's selection was a strategic decision, reflecting his military experience, his leadership qualities, and his ability to unite the disparate colonies. As he took command of the Continental Army, Washington faced the daunting challenge of transforming a ragtag group of militias into a cohesive fighting force. He understood that the struggle for independence would be long and arduous, requiring not just military prowess, but also political acumen and the ability to inspire and sustain popular support. Washington's leadership during the early stages of the war was characterized by strategic patience and an understanding of the broader political context. He recognized that the war would not be won through sheer force alone, but through a sustained effort to weaken British resolve and maintain colonial unity. His successful siege of Boston in 1776, which forced the British to evacuate the city, demonstrated his ability to achieve strategic victories and bolster the morale of the revolutionary cause. The Declaration of Independence, adopted on July 4, 1776, marked a decisive moment in the struggle for liberty. It articulated the principles of self-governance and individual rights that had motivated Washington and his fellow revolutionaries. As the Continental Army faced the challenges of war, Washington's commitment to these ideals remained steadfast. He understood that the fight for independence was not just a military conflict, but a battle for the very soul of the nation. Washington's journey on the road to revolution was marked by a profound transformation. He evolved from a loyal British subject to a determined advocate for American independence. His leadership, vision, and unwavering commitment to the cause played a crucial role in shaping the revolutionary movement and setting the stage for the birth of a new nation. As the struggle for independence unfolded, Washington's resolve and dedication would continue to inspire and guide the fledgling United States toward its destiny. Leading the Continental Army, the appointment of George Washington as the Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army was a turning point in the American Revolution. This chapter delves into Washington's leadership during the early years of the war, examining the challenges he faced, his strategic decisions, and his efforts to transform the Continental Army into an effective fighting force. When Washington arrived in Cambridge, Massachusetts, in July 1775 to take command of the Continental Army, he found a force that was poorly equipped, inadequately trained, and lacking in discipline. The troops were a patchwork of militia units from different colonies, each with its own customs and command structures. One of Washington's first tasks was to impose order and discipline, creating a unified command structure and instilling a sense of purpose and professionalism among the soldiers. Washington understood that the key to victory lay in sustaining the revolutionary cause and maintaining the morale of his troops. He faced significant logistical challenges, including shortages of weapons, ammunition, and supplies. The Continental Congress, with limited resources and financial constraints, struggled to provide the necessary support. Washington often had to improvise, relying on local resources and the ingenuity of his officers and men to meet the Army's needs. The Siege of Boston, which lasted from April 1775 to March 1776, was Washington's first major campaign as Commander-in-Chief. He implemented a strategy of containment, fortifying positions around the city and cutting off British supply lines. Washington's patience and strategic planning paid off when he successfully fortified Dorchester Heights with artillery captured from Fort Ticonderoga. The British, realizing their untenable position, evacuated Boston on March 17, 1776. This early victory boosted colonial morale and established Washington's reputation as a capable leader. However, the war was far from over. The British, determined to crush the rebellion, launched a major offensive in New York in the summer of 1776. Washington faced a formidable enemy, well-equipped and experienced, in the Battle of Long Island. Despite his best efforts, the Continental Army was outmaneuvered and suffered a significant defeat. Washington's leadership during the retreat, including the daring nighttime evacuation of his troops across the East River, demonstrated his ability to adapt and persevere in the face of adversity. The losses in New York were a severe blow, but Washington's resilience and strategic insight helped to turn the tide. He recognized the importance of surprise and mobility, leading his troops in a series of bold and unexpected maneuvers. The successful crossing of the Delaware River on the night of December 25, 1776, and the subsequent victories at the battles of Trenton and Princeton revitalized the revolutionary cause and demonstrated Washington's tactical brilliance. Throughout the war, Washington faced numerous challenges, including internal divisions within the Continental Army and the constant threat of desertion. He worked tirelessly to build a sense of unity and shared purpose among his troops. His leadership was characterized by a deep sense of duty and an unwavering commitment to the cause of independence. Washington's ability to inspire loyalty and dedication among his men was crucial in maintaining the Army's cohesion and fighting spirit. Washington also had to navigate the complex political landscape of the Revolution. He maintained close communication with the Continental Congress, advocating for the needs of his troops and the importance of a unified strategy. His relationship with Congress was often fraught with tension, as the civilian leaders grappled with the financial and logistical challenges of supporting the war effort. Washington's diplomatic skills and his ability to work with diverse personalities were essential in forging a cooperative and effective leadership team. The winter of 1777 to 1778 at Valley Forge was one of the most challenging periods of the war. The Continental Army faced severe shortages of food, clothing, and shelter, and the harsh conditions took a heavy toll on the soldiers' morale and health. Washington's leadership in this difficult time was marked by his determination to hold the army together and his efforts to secure additional support from Congress and the states. The training and discipline instilled by Baron von Steuben, a Prussian military officer who joined the Continental Army at Valley Forge, significantly improved the army's effectiveness and readiness for future campaigns. Washington's strategic vision extended beyond the battlefield. He recognized the importance of securing foreign alliances and support for the revolutionary cause. The alliance with France, formalized in 1778, provided crucial military and financial assistance to the Continental Army. Washington's ability to work with French military leaders, such as General Rochambeau and the Marquis de Lafayette, exemplified his diplomatic acumen and his commitment to a coordinated and effective war effort. As the war progressed, Washington continued to lead with a combination of strategic insight, resilience, and an unwavering commitment to the principles of liberty and independence. His leadership was instrumental in achieving key victories, such as the Battle of Saratoga and the eventual defeat of British General Cornwallis at Yorktown in 1781. Washington's ability to adapt to changing circumstances, to inspire and motivate his troops, and to maintain a clear strategic vision were crucial in securing American independence. The end of the Revolutionary War in 1783, the culmination of Washington's military leadership. His role in the struggle for independence had transformed him into a national hero and a symbol of the new nation's ideals. Washington's leadership of the Continental Army only secured American independence, but also set a precedent for civilian control of the military and the principles of republican governance. As Washington prepared to return to civilian life at Mount Vernon, he did so with a profound sense of accomplishment and a deep commitment to the future of the United States. His leadership during the war had demonstrated the power of unity, resilience, and visionary thinking. These qualities would continue to guide him in the years to come, as he took on the role of the nation's first president and helped to shape the foundations of American democracy. Founding the Republic, the end of the Revolutionary War marked a new beginning for George Washington and the fledgling United States. This chapter explores Washington's role in the founding of the American Republic, from his leadership in the Constitutional Convention to his tenure as the nation's first president. It examines the challenges he faced, the principles that guided him, and the legacy he left for future generations. After the British surrender at Yorktown in 1781, Washington's thoughts turned to the future of the new nation. The Articles of Confederation, which had governed the colonies during the war, proved inadequate for the needs of a unified and functioning republic. The Articles lacked a strong central government, leading to issues such as economic instability, interstate conflicts, and an inability to effectively manage national affairs. Washington, along with other leaders, recognized the need for a new framework of government that could provide stability and promote the common good. In 1787, Washington was called upon to preside over the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia. His presence lent the proceedings an air of legitimacy and gravitas. The delegates faced the daunting task of creating a new constitution that would balance the need for a strong central government with the protection of individual liberties and states' rights. Washington's leadership was marked by his commitment to collaboration, his ability to mediate disputes, and his unwavering focus on the greater good. The resulting constitution established a system of government based on the principles of federalism, separation of powers, and checks and balances. It provided for a strong executive branch, which many delegates believed was essential for effective governance and national unity. Washington's support for the Constitution was crucial in securing its ratification by the states. He believed that the new framework of government was essential for the survival and prosperity of the United States. In 1789, Washington was unanimously elected as the first President of the United States. His inauguration in New York City on April 30, 1789, marked the beginning of a new era in American history. Washington approached his role with a deep sense of duty and humility, aware of the immense responsibilities and the historic significance of his position. His presidency set important precedents for the office and established the norms and traditions that would guide future administrations. One of Washington's first tasks as president was to establish the executive branch and its various departments. He appointed a diverse and talented group of advisors, including Thomas Jefferson as Secretary of State, Alexander Hamilton as Secretary of the Treasury, and Henry Knox as Secretary of War. Washington valued their expertise and perspectives, even when they disagreed, and his ability to foster a collaborative and effective cabinet was a key aspect of his leadership. Washington's presidency was marked by a series of significant challenges and achievements. He worked to stabilize the national economy, support the development of a sound financial system, and promote economic growth. Alexander Hamilton's financial policies, including the creation of the Bank of the United States and the assumption of state debts by the federal government, was central to these efforts. Washington's support for Hamilton's vision of a strong central government and a robust economy reflected his belief in the importance of national unity and stability. Foreign policy was another critical area of Washington's presidency. He navigated the complexities of international relations in a turbulent world, striving to maintain American neutrality and avoid entanglement in European conflicts. His administration negotiated the Jay Treaty with Great Britain, which resolved outstanding issues from the Revolutionary War and promoted trade between the two nations. Washington's farewell address, delivered at the end of his second term, emphasized the importance of national unity, the dangers of political factions, and the need for a cautious and independent foreign policy. Washington's leadership was also characterized by his commitment to the rule of law and the principles of republican governance. He set a precedent for the peaceful transfer of power by voluntarily stepping down after 2 terms, reinforcing the idea that the presidency was a temporary and elected position, not a lifetime appointment. His decision to retire to Mount Vernon in 1797 underscored his belief in the importance of civilian leadership and the need to prevent the concentration of power in any one individual or group. Throughout his presidency, Washington faced criticism and political opposition, particularly from those who disagreed with his policies or who feared the emergence of a strong central government. Despite these challenges, he remained steadfast in his commitment to the Constitution and the principles of American democracy. His leadership during this formative period helped to establish the foundations of the United States government and to define the character of the American Republic. Washington's legacy as the father of his country is built on his unwavering dedication to the ideals of liberty, justice, and national unity. His vision of a united and prosperous nation, guided by the principles of republican governance and the rule of law, continues to inspire and shape the United States. Washington's leadership in the Revolutionary Era, his role in the founding of the Republic, and his exemplary conduct as the nation's first president set a standard for future generations and left an enduring mark on American history. As Washington returned to Mount Vernon, he did so with a sense of fulfillment and a hope for the future of the United States. His leadership had helped to transform a fledgling group of colonies into a united and independent nation. His principles and values, rooted in a deep love of liberty and a commitment to the common good, would continue to guide the nation he helped to create. The final years and legacy. After his presidency, George Washington returned to Mount Vernon, where he hoped to spend his remaining years in peace and tranquility. However, his retirement was short-lived, as he continued to play an influential role in the young nation. This chapter explores Washington's final years, his enduring legacy, and the impact he had on the United States and the world. Washington's return to Mount Vernon in 1797 marked the end of his public service, but not his involvement in national affairs. He remained a respected and influential figure, often sought for his counsel and guidance. The political and ideological divisions that had emerged during his presidency continued to shape the nation's development. Washington's views and actions during this period reflected his ongoing commitment to the principles of unity, stability, and republican governance. One of the most significant events during Washington's retirement was the quasi-war with France, an undeclared naval conflict that arose from tensions between the United States and the French Republic. President John Adams, seeking to bolster national defense, appointed Washington as the senior officer of the United States Army in 1798. Washington accepted the appointment, but insisted that Alexander Hamilton, his trusted advisor and former Secretary of the Treasury, serve as his second-in-command. While Washington did not see active service, his leadership and organizational skills were instrumental in preparing the country for potential conflict. Washington's final years were also marked by his continued dedication to the welfare of his family and the management of his estate. He worked to improve agricultural practices at Mount Vernon, experimenting with crop rotation, soil conservation, and innovative farming techniques. Washington's efforts to modernize and diversify his estate reflected his belief in the importance of agriculture for the nation's prosperity and self-sufficiency. In addition to his agricultural pursuits, Washington remained committed to education and civic engagement. He supported the establishment of schools and educational institutions, including the founding of the United States Military Academy at West Point. Washington believed that education was essential for the development of informed and responsible citizens, and he advocated for the creation of a national university to promote higher learning and the advancement of knowledge. Washington's health began to decline in the late 1790s. In December 1799, he fell ill with a severe respiratory infection, which rapidly worsened despite the best efforts of his doctors. George Washington died on December 14, 1799, at the age of 67. His death was a profound loss for the young nation, which mourned the passing of its most revered leader. Washington's funeral, held at Mount Vernon, was attended by family, friends, and dignitaries, and his legacy was honored with tributes and commemorations across the country. The impact of George Washington's life and leadership extends far beyond his own time. His contributions to the founding and development of the United States have left an enduring mark on a nation's identity and institutions. Washington's vision of a united and democratic republic, governed by the rule of law and dedicated to the principles of liberty and justice, continues to inspire and guide the United States. Washington's legacy is reflected in the countless monuments, memorials, and places named in his honor, including the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. His image and ideals are enshrined in American culture and history, symbolizing the values of courage, integrity, and selfless service. Washington's example as a leader, both in war and in peace, set a standard for future generations and established the principles that continue to define the American presidency and the nation's democratic governance. As the father of his country, George Washington's life and legacy are a testament to the power of visionary leadership and the enduring strength of the American experiment in self-governance. His unwavering commitment to the ideals of liberty, justice, and national unity has left an indelible mark on the United States and the world. Washington's contributions to the founding and development of the American Republic serve as a reminder of the values and principles that continue to shape the nation's identity and aspirations. Washington's enduring influence. George Washington's influence extended far beyond his lifetime, shaping the course of American history and leaving a lasting legacy that continues to resonate today. This chapter explores the ways in which Washington's leadership, values, and example have influenced subsequent generations of leaders and citizens, both in the United States and around the world. One of Washington's most enduring legacies is his exemplary leadership and character. Throughout his life, he embodied the qualities of integrity, humility, and selflessness, earning him the respect and admiration of his contemporaries and future generations. Washington's leadership during the Revolutionary War, his presidency, and his retirement set a standard for leadership that continues to inspire leaders around the world. Washington's commitment to the principles of liberty, justice, and national unity guided his actions as a military commander, a statesman, and a private citizen. His unwavering dedication to the common good, even in the face of personal sacrifice and adversity, exemplified the qualities of true leadership. Washington's willingness to put the needs of the nation above his own interests and ambitions earned him the title of the Father of his country and established him as a symbol of American ideals. Washington's presidency played a crucial role in shaping the institution of the American presidency and the principles of democratic governance. As the nation's first president, he set important precedents for the office, establishing norms and traditions that have endured for over 2 centuries. Washington's commitment to the rule of law, the separation of powers, and the principles of checks and balances helped to establish the foundations of the American Republic. Throughout his presidency, Washington worked to strengthen the federal government and promote national unity. He advocated for a strong executive branch, while also respecting the authority of Congress and the judiciary. Washington's leadership during moments of crisis, such as the Whiskey Rebellion and the Jay Treaty controversy, demonstrated his commitment to upholding the Constitution and preserving the integrity of the young nation. Washington believed deeply in the importance of civic engagement and public service. He viewed active participation in the democratic process as a fundamental responsibility of citizenship and encouraged his fellow Americans to take an active role in shaping the future of their nation. Washington's own service as a military commander, a statesman, and a community leader exemplified his commitment to the common good and his belief in the power of individual action to effect positive change. Throughout his life, Washington emphasized the importance of virtue, morality, and civic responsibility in public life. He believed that a well-informed and engaged citizenry was essential for the success of the Republic and worked to promote education, civic virtue, and public discourse. Washington's farewell address, delivered at the end of his second term, warned against the dangers of political factionalism and foreign entanglements, urging Americans to remain vigilant in defense of their liberties and the principles of Republican government. Washington's influence extended beyond the borders of the United States, shaping the course of world history and inspiring movements for liberty and democracy around the globe. His leadership during the Revolutionary War and his role in the founding of the American Republic served as a beacon of hope for oppressed peoples everywhere, demonstrating that a determined and united people could throw off the shackles of tyranny and establish a government based on the consent of the governed. Washington's commitment to the principles of liberty, justice, and self-determination inspired subsequent generations of leaders and revolutionaries. From South America to Europe to Asia, his example as a selfless and principled leader resonated with freedom fighters and reformers seeking to overthrow colonial rule, establish democratic governments, and secure the rights and liberties of their fellow citizens. Washington's legacy continues to be celebrated and honored around the world, with countless monuments, memorials, and institutions bearing his name. His image and ideals serve as a reminder of the enduring power of democratic governance and the principles of liberty and justice for which he fought. Washington's contributions to the cause of freedom and democracy have left an indelible mark on human history, inspiring generations to strive for a better and more just world. As Americans, we are heirs to the legacy of George Washington, the father of his country, and a symbol of the ideals upon which our nation was founded. His leadership, his values, and his example continue to shape our identity as a nation and inspire us to strive for a more perfect union. In honoring Washington's legacy, we reaffirm our commitment to the principles of liberty, justice, and equality that he championed and strived to build a future worthy of his vision. Washington's impact on American identity. George Washington played a pivotal role in shaping the identity of the United States as a nation and its sense of national pride. This chapter explores how Washington's leadership, character, and legacy have contributed to the development of American identity and the nation's collective memory. Throughout American history, George Washington has been revered as a symbol of unity and national pride. As the leader of the Continental Army during the Revolutionary War and the nation's first president, Washington played a central role in bringing together the diverse colonies and forging a sense of national identity. His steadfast leadership, integrity, and dedication to the principles of liberty and justice helped to unite Americans of different backgrounds and ideologies behind a common cause. Washington's image and legacy have been celebrated in countless ways, from statues and monuments to currency and postage stamps. His likeness adorns the walls of government buildings, schools, and public spaces across the country, serving as a constant reminder of the values and ideals upon which the nation was founded. Washington's birthday, February 22nd, was once widely celebrated as a national holiday, and his name has been bestowed upon cities, counties, and states as a mark of honor and respect. George Washington is often referred to as the father of his country and the founding father of the United States. His leadership during the Revolutionary War and his pivotal role in the drafting and ratification of the Constitution established him as one of the principal architects of American democracy. Washington's vision of a government based on the consent of the governed, with checks and balances to prevent the concentration of power, laid the groundwork for the nation's system of government and the principles of democratic governance. Washington's farewell address, delivered at the end of his second term as president, emphasized the importance of national unity, civic virtue, and the rule of law. In it, he warned against the dangers of political factionalism, foreign entanglements, and the erosion of democratic norms and institutions. Washington's words continue to resonate today, reminding Americans of the fragility of democracy and the need for active citizenship and vigilant defense of the nation's liberties. George Washington's personal character and leadership qualities have long been admired and emulated by Americans. His integrity, humility, and selflessness set a standard for leadership that continues to inspire leaders in all walks of life. Washington's commitment to the principles of honor, duty, and service guided his actions as a military commander, a statesman, and a private citizen, earning him the respect and admiration of his contemporaries and future generations. Washington's famous crossing of the Delaware River on Christmas night in 1776, his stoic endurance during the harsh winter at Valley Forge, and his decision to voluntarily step down from the presidency after 2 terms are just a few examples of his leadership and sacrifice. Washington's willingness to put the needs of the nation above his own interests and ambitions earned him the trust and loyalty of his fellow Americans and established him as a model of virtuous leadership. George Washington's influence extends far beyond his own time, shaping the course of American history and inspiring generations of leaders and citizens. His legacy as the father of his country and the indispensable man continues to be celebrated and honored, serving as a touchstone for Americans seeking to understand their nation's past and chart its future. Washington's example as a principled leader, a devoted patriot, and a visionary statesman reminds us of the enduring values and ideals upon which the United States was founded. As Americans, we are heirs to the legacy of George Washington, the father of his country, and a symbol of our nation's highest ideals. His leadership, his character, and his vision continue to shape our identity as a nation and inspire us to strive for a more perfect union. In honoring Washington's legacy, we reaffirm our commitment to the principles of liberty, justice, and equality that he championed and strived to build a future worthy of his vision. Washington's influence on American culture and society. George Washington's impact on American culture and society extends far beyond his political leadership. This chapter examines how Washington's legacy has influenced various aspects of American life, from literature and art to popular culture and national symbols. Throughout American history, George Washington has been a popular subject for writers, artists, and historians. His iconic image, with its stern visage and noble bearing, has inspired countless portraits, sculptures, and works of literature. From Gilbert Stuart's famous portrait of Washington to Emanuel Leutze's painting of the crossing of the Delaware, artists have sought to capture Washington's likeness and character for posterity. Washington's own writings, including his letters, speeches, and diaries, provide valuable insights into his thoughts, beliefs, and experiences. His farewell address, in particular, has been widely studied and celebrated for its eloquence, wisdom, and vision for the nation's future. Washington's writings continue to be studied and admired for their clarity, insight, and moral force. George Washington's image and legacy woven into the fabric of American society, serving as enduring symbols of the nation's ideals and aspirations. His likeness appears on the $1 bill and the quarter, as well as on postage stamps, license plates, and government buildings. The Washington Monument, a towering obelisk in the nation's capital, stands as a tribute to his leadership and legacy. Washington's name and image also appear in popular culture, from movies and television shows to advertising and consumer products. His name has been used to sell everything from cars and beer to mattresses and insurance, reflecting his status as a cultural icon and a symbol of American values. Washington's birthday, February 22nd, is celebrated as President's Day, honoring not only him but also the other presidents who have led the nation. George Washington's legacy is actively promoted and commemorated through various educational and commemorative initiatives. Schools, libraries, and museums across the country are programs and exhibits dedicated to Washington's life and legacy, providing opportunities for Americans to learn about their nation's founding and the principles that guided its first president. Historic sites associated with Washington's life, such as Mount Vernon and Valley Forge, attract thousands of visitors each year, offering insights into his character, leadership, and contributions to American history. The Mount Vernon Ladies Association, which has preserved and maintained Washington's estate since 1858, continues to promote his legacy through educational programs, exhibits, and events. George Washington's influence on American culture and society reflects his broader impact on the nation's identity and sense of self. As the father of his country and a symbol of the American Republic, Washington embodies the nation's highest ideals of leadership, integrity, and service. His legacy continues to inspire Americans to strive for excellence, to uphold the principles of democracy, and to work towards a more just and prosperous future. Washington's example as a leader, a patriot, and a statesman serves as a reminder of the enduring values and principles that have guided the nation since its founding. His commitment to liberty, justice, and the common good remains a source of inspiration and guidance for Americans seeking to fulfill the promise of their nation's founding ideals. In honoring Washington's legacy, we reaffirm our commitment to the principles of liberty, equality, and democracy that he championed and strived to build a future worthy of his vision. Washington's legacy in international relations. George Washington's influence extends beyond the borders of the United States, shaping international relations and diplomacy in profound ways. This chapter explores Washington's impact on the global stage, from his leadership at the Revolutionary War to his role in shaping America's foreign policy and engagement with the world. During the Revolutionary War, George Washington's leadership inspired peoples around the world who sought to overthrow colonial rule and establish democratic governments. Washington's commitment to the principles of liberty, justice, and self-determination resonated with freedom fighters and revolutionaries from Europe to Latin America to Asia, who saw in the American struggle for independence a beacon of hope and inspiration. Washington's victory over the British Empire, the world's preeminent superpower at the time, demonstrated the power of determined and united peoples to throw off the yoke of tyranny and establish governments based on the consent of the governed. His leadership during the war helped to inspire subsequent movements for independence and democracy, shaping the course of world history and advancing the cause of human liberty. As the nation's first president, George Washington played a crucial role in shaping America's foreign policy and engagement with the world. Washington believed in the importance of neutrality and non-interference in the affairs of other nations, advocating for a policy of peace, commerce, and honest friendship with all nations, entangling alliances with none. His farewell address, delivered at the end of his second term, warned against the dangers of foreign entanglements and the need to prioritize the interests of the United States above all else. Washington's commitment to neutrality and non-intervention helped to establish the United States as a respected and influential actor on the world stage. His administration negotiated treaties with European powers, such as the Jay Treaty with Great Britain and the Treaty of Paris with Spain, which helped to secure the nation's borders, promote trade, and protect American interests abroad. Washington's diplomatic skills and his ability to navigate the complexities of international relations laid the groundwork for America's emergence as a global power. George Washington's legacy in international relations continues to shape America's approach to foreign policy and engagement with the world. His emphasis on diplomacy, negotiation, and respect for international law set a precedent for future generations of American leaders. Washington's vision of a peaceful and prosperous world, based on the principles of liberty, justice, and mutual respect, remains a guiding principle of American foreign policy. Washington's example as a leader, a diplomat, and a statesman continues to inspire Americans and people around the world who seek to build a more just and peaceful world. His commitment to the ideals of liberty, democracy, and human rights serves as a reminder of the enduring values that unite peoples across borders and continents. In honoring Washington's legacy, we reaffirm our commitment to the principles of freedom, equality, and justice that he championed and strived to build a future in which all nations can live in peace and prosperity. Washington's impact on military strategy and doctrine. George Washington's leadership during the Revolutionary War revolutionized military strategy and doctrine, leaving a lasting impact on the conduct of warfare. This chapter examines Washington's innovations in military tactics, his strategic vision, and his legacy in shaping the way wars are fought. Washington's leadership of the Revolutionary War was characterized by his strategic vision, adaptability, and resilience in the face of adversity. As Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army, Washington faced significant challenges, including a lack of resources, training, and experience. However, his keen understanding of military strategy and his ability to inspire and motivate his troops helped to turn the tide of the war in favor of the American cause. Washington's strategic brilliance was evident in his ability to outmaneuver and outwit the British forces, despite being outnumbered and outgunned. His use of guerrilla tactics, such as hit-and-run raids and ambushes, disrupted British supply lines and forced the enemy to spread their forces thin. Washington also recognized the importance of morale and discipline in maintaining the fighting spirit of his troops, implementing strict training regimes and disciplinary measures to ensure their readiness for battle. Washington's leadership during the Revolutionary War saw the development of innovative military tactics that would shape the way wars are fought for centuries to come. One of Washington's most famous maneuvers was his daring nighttime crossing of the Delaware River on Christmas night in 1776, which led to a surprise attack on the Hessians at Trenton. This bold and unexpected move demonstrated Washington's willingness to take risks and his ability to exploit enemy weaknesses. Washington also made effective use of defensive tactics, such as fortifications and entrenchments, to protect his troops and repel enemy assaults. His successful defense of Dorchester Heights in Boston, where he fortified the high ground with captured artillery, forced the British to evacuate the city and marked a turning point in the war. Washington's emphasis on strategic positioning and defensive warfare helped to minimize casualties and preserve the strength of the Continental Army. George Washington's legacy in military strategy and doctrine continues to influence the way wars are fought and won. His emphasis on strategic planning, mobility, and surprise has become fundamental principles of modern warfare. Military leaders study Washington's campaigns and tactics as timeless examples of effective leadership and strategic thinking. Washington's leadership during the Revolutionary War also laid the groundwork for the professionalization of the American military. His emphasis on discipline, training, and professionalism helped to transform the ragtag Continental Army into a formidable fighting force capable of taking on the might of the British Empire. Washington's legacy as a military leader is evident in the values and traditions of the United States Armed Forces, which continue to uphold his commitment to duty, honor, and service. George Washington's impact on military strategy and doctrine cannot be overstated. His leadership during the Revolutionary War revolutionized the way wars are fought and won, laying the foundation for the success of the American cause. Washington's strategic brilliance, innovative tactics, and unwavering determination inspired generations of military leaders and shaped the course of world history. In honoring Washington's legacy, we pay tribute to his enduring contributions to the art and science of warfare and reaffirm our commitment to the principles of freedom, democracy, and national defense for which he fought. Washington's economic legacy and impact on nation building. George Washington's leadership extended beyond the battlefield and the political arena to include a significant impact on the economic development and nation-building efforts of the United States. This chapter delves into Washington's economic policies, his vision for economic prosperity, and his lasting influence on the nation's economic landscape. As the nation's first president, George Washington faced the formidable task of building a stable and prosperous economy from the ashes of war and revolution. Washington recognized the importance of economic development and sought to promote policies that would lay the foundation for long-term growth and prosperity. His administration focused on key areas such as infrastructure, trade, and fiscal policy to stimulate economic activity and expand the nation's wealth. Washington's economic vision was shaped by his experiences as a farmer, businessman, and landowner. He understood the importance of agriculture as the backbone of the economy and worked to promote policies that would support farmers and encourage agricultural innovation. Washington also recognized the importance of manufacturing and commerce in building a diversified and resilient economy, advocating for policies that would promote industrial development and expand domestic and foreign trade. One of Washington's key priorities as president was the development of the nation's infrastructure, including roads, bridges, canals, and ports. He believed that a robust transportation network was essential for connecting the various regions of the country, facilitating commerce, and promoting economic growth. Washington's administration supported the construction of roads and canals, such as the Cumberland Road and the Erie Canal, which opened up new markets and facilitated the movement of goods and people across the country. Washington also recognized the importance of investing in the nation's ports and harbors to support international trade and commerce. His administration funded the expansion and improvement of port facilities, such as the ports of New York and Philadelphia, which played a crucial role in facilitating trade with Europe, the Caribbean, and other parts of the world. Washington's emphasis on infrastructure development laid the groundwork for the expansion of the American economy and the growth of trade and commerce. Washington's economic policies were guided by principles of fiscal responsibility, sound money, and financial stability. He believed in the importance of maintaining a balanced budget and reducing the national debt to ensure the long-term health of the economy. Washington's administration implemented policies to strengthen the nation's finances, including the establishment of a national bank and the imposition of tariffs to generate revenue and protect domestic industries. Washington also took steps to establish the creditworthiness of the United States on the international stage. His administration funded the repayment of the nation's Revolutionary War debts and negotiated treaties with foreign creditors to secure favorable terms. Washington's commitment to financial stability and fiscal responsibility helped to build confidence in the young nation's economy and attract investment from abroad. George Washington's economic legacy continues to influence the way we think about and approach economic development and nation building. His vision for a diversified and prosperous economy, supported by infrastructure investment, sound fiscal policy, and responsible governance, remains relevant today. Washington's emphasis on economic development as a key pillar of national strength and security laid the foundation for the economic growth and prosperity of the United States. Washington's economic policies and priorities helped to shape the economic landscape of the United States and laid the groundwork for the nation's emergence as a global economic power. His commitment to fostering economic opportunity, promoting innovation, and expanding trade and commerce set a precedent for future generations of American leaders. In honoring Washington's economic legacy, we reaffirm our commitment to building a strong, resilient, and inclusive economy that benefits all Americans. Washington's legacy of civic virtue and national identity. George Washington's influence on American society goes beyond his political and military leadership to encompass his profound impact on civic virtue and national identity. This final chapter explores Washington's role in shaping the civic culture of the United States, his enduring influence on American values, and his legacy as a symbol of national unity and pride. From the earliest days of the American Republic, George Washington emphasized the importance of civic virtue and Republican citizenship in sustaining a free and democratic society. He believed that the success of the nation depended on the active participation and moral character of its citizens, who were responsible for upholding the principles of liberty, justice, and the common good. Washington encouraged Americans to cultivate virtues such as honesty, integrity, and selflessness in their personal and public lives, recognizing that a virtuous citizenry was essential for the preservation of the Republic. Washington's own life and example embodied the principles of civic virtue and Republican citizenship. His commitment to duty, honor, and service, both on the battlefield and in public office, set a standard for future generations of Americans. Washington's insistence on humility, modesty, and self-restraint, even in the face of power and adulation, reflected his belief in the importance of individual character in shaping the destiny of the nation. As the father of his country, George Washington played a central role in shaping the national identity of the United States and fostering a sense of unity and pride among its citizens. His leadership during the Revolutionary War and his presidency helped to forge a sense of common purpose and destiny among the diverse peoples of the new nation. Washington's commitment to national unity, regardless of regional or partisan differences, set a precedent for future generations of Americans and reinforced the idea of e pluribus unum, out of many. 1. Washington's image and legacy became synonymous with the ideals of liberty, democracy, and national independence. His likeness adorned public buildings, currency, and monuments, serving as a constant reminder of the nation's founding principles and the sacrifices of those who fought to secure them. Washington's birthday, February 22nd, became a national holiday, celebrated as a day of remembrance and reflection on the values that unite Americans as a people. George Washington's legacy of civic virtue and national identity continues to inspire Americans and people around the world who aspire to the principles of freedom, democracy, and self-government. His example as a leader, a patriot, and a statesman serves as a beacon of hope and inspiration in times of challenge and uncertainty. Washington's commitment to the ideals of liberty, justice, and the common good remains a guiding light for all who seek to build a better and more just society. Washington's legacy is evident in the values and institutions of the United States, from its democratic governance and commitment to the rule of law to its tradition of civic engagement and public service. His vision of a nation founded on the principles of liberty, equality, and justice continues to shape the American experience and inspire generations of Americans to strive for a more perfect union. In honoring George Washington's legacy, we reaffirm our commitment to the principles that he held dear, the belief in the inherent dignity and worth of every individual, the importance of civic virtue and public service, and the enduring values of freedom, democracy, and justice. As we reflect on Washington's life and legacy, may we be inspired to carry forward his vision of a nation united in pursuit of a more perfect union, and may we strive to build a future worthy of his enduring legacy. Thanks for watching.